Tonight, a tense confrontation with the U.S. Coast Guard. A Quebec man's agonizing moments on the water.
I'm never going to be the same. You see, it comes and goes. I can't stop it.
Why he was detained and his warning to Canadians. Tuning out a controversial act.
And if this gentleman wants to promote that message, he's welcome to do that in his own country.
Why an American musician feels silenced in parts of Canada and where his show will go on. Plus, the new claims linking Donald Trump to the Epstein files.
What are they hiding from the American people?
What the Justice Department allegedly told the U.S. president months ago.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Anne-Marie Meadowake.
Good evening. We begin with a Quebec man's nice day out fishing on the lake that turned into a nightmare when he got caught by the U.S. Coast Guard. CTV's Matt Grillo now on his traumatizing story and the warning to Canadians to steer clear of the border.
I'm never going to be the same. You see, it comes and goes. I can't stop it.
Edouard Lallemand is still very emotional when he talks about what happened on Sunday evening. Lallemand was out fishing near Venise en Quebec. The water connects to Lake Champlain in the U.S. But Lallemand says he knows for certain he was on the Canadian side.
I'm seeing them. They're coming towards me. And I know in my heart, I'm in Canada. I said, they can't do nothing to me.
The boat that was approaching, he says, was the U.S. Coast Guard. They asked him to turn off his engine. He complied. They told him he was in U.S. territory.
No, I'm very sorry. I'm in Canada. And I said, you know, I'm polite enough to talk to you guys, but you cannot arrest me. You can't come across the border and pick me up. And they did.
Lallemand says he started his engine and tried to make his way further into Canada, but he says the Coast Guard followed and tried pushing him into the U.S. Eventually, his boat capsized. Lallemand was in the water and says he was drowning.
The third time I went down, coming out with water in my mouth, spitting it out, I said, throw me a buoy.
He says he was handcuffed on the U.S. Coast Guard boat and eventually turned over to Border Patrol. He was detained and placed in a holding cell without a proper explanation, he says.
I said, are you arresting me? No, sir, you're detained. I said, detained for what? I said, you arrest me. I didn't do nothing to you guys. I didn't even hit you guys.
In a statement to CTV News, the U.S. Coast Guard says the operator was informed that he was in U.S. Customs waters. While the Coast Guard's 29-foot response boat was alongside the vessel, the operator put the vessel in motion and ignored commands to maintain course and speed for boarding purposes. The vessel then made an abrupt turn and struck the port bow of the Coast Guard. They go on to say that Lallemand boat capsized and he ended up in the water, but the Coast Guard promptly recovered him. He was eventually transferred to U.S. Border Patrol custody, and the Coast Guard says the actions of the operator of the Canadian vessel are currently under investigation. After hours in a cell, Lallemand was released.
I mean, I've never seen him like that. We've been together for a very long time. He's like a beaten man.
He says he was injured, but he just wants an apology from the U.S. Coast Guard, and he's speaking out as a warning to other Canadians.
I want the people to know and to beware. Stay away from the border, even if it's 500, 600 feet away from there.
Matt Grillo, CTV News, Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu.
Several Canadian cities are shutting out MAGA-affiliated American musician Shan Fo. The Christian singer has had the plug pulled on several of his concerts after some residents and faith leaders shared concerns about his message. As CTV's Paul Hollingsworth shows us, Foyt remains defiant.
The show must go on, and that's why Shan Fo moved his outdoor concert to this private property in Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia. Earlier this week, Foyt was told by Parks Canada his gig at this National Historic Site in Halifax was a no-go. His permit was cancelled. Moncton, Charlottetown, Quebec City, and the Ottawa region have done the same for Foyt's scheduled concerts. The changes were sparked by concerns over public backlash because Foyt is linked to the Trump-led MAGA movement and has spoken out against abortion and LGBTQ+ rights.
This is the classic playbook of the media, of the anti-Christian bigots out there.
Community members say the reaction to Foyt has nothing to do with religion.
I have many friends that are Christian and they disagree with the way this person is doing things, and he is aligned with Trump, and Trump is at war with Canada.
We have a prime minister who goes around talking about elbows up. And at the same time, the Brains Trust of Parks Canada is allowing that nonsense in a national historic site is frankly beyond belief.
Beyond the Maritimes, Quebec and Ontario, Foyt is also scheduled to perform in Western Canada later this summer. United Church lay minister David Roger Gagnon, who describes himself as being openly gay, says Foyt is free to have his views, but that doesn't mean they have a place in this country.
And if this gentleman wants to promote that message, he's welcome to do that in his own country.
Gagnon hopes other cities on the concert tour tell Shan Fo he should perform somewhere else. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Developing news tonight in northern BC, where 3 miners remain trapped underground at a gold and copper mine after back-to-back collapses. The workers, 2 from BC and 1 from Ontario, were initially able to communicate with rescue crews, but all contact was lost after the second collapse, and no one has heard from them since. The Red Chris mine is located about 350 kilometers south of the Yukon border. The 3 men are believed to be alive after making their way to an underground refuge chamber.
There's water, there's food, and there's compressed air feeding that refuge station. So with that, it's all the basics you need to sustain life.
They've been stuck underground for more than 24 hours. The Newmont Mining Company warns it could take days or even weeks to free them, but are, quote, assessing all methods available to save them. Well, turning now to the latest revelations linking U.S. President Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. This as a Florida federal judge denied Trump's request to release secret grand jury documents related to the late financier and convicted sex offenders case. CTV's Washington bureau chief Joy Melvin has those new details.
It's a headline no president wants. The Wall Street Journal reporting the Justice Department told Trump in May his name is among many in the Epstein files. Attorney General Pam Bondi told the president his name appears along with other high-profile figures. But the Justice Department says being in the records is not a sign of wrongdoing. This as newly discovered photos show Donald Trump and the convicted sex offender at a fashion event in 1999. Epstein even attended Trump's wedding to Marla Maples in 1993 and was a guest at a Mar-a-Lago charity event in 2000. The president is trying to move past the Epstein controversy that has dogged him for weeks, stoking an alleged conspiracy that former President Barack Obama tried to influence the 2016 election, telling Republicans,
every time they give you a question that's not appropriate, just say, oh, by the way, Obama cheated on the election.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers were sent home early to avoid the subject. It's not working.
If anybody thinks that this is going to go away because the House left a day early or something, it's got to be like those zombies in The Walking Dead. Every time you think you've killed it, another one's just going to come running.
Republicans voted to formally subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell in August, Epstein's accomplice serving jail time for trafficking young girls. And Trump's personal lawyer also plans to question her. But the pressure is on the Justice Department to release all the Epstein files.
Their refusal to share information to the American people, despite promising to do so, one must ponder the question, what are they hiding from the American people?
There are now 2 efforts to interview Ghislaine Maxwell. Her lawyer says how that goes will determine if she answers questions or not. Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Joy. Well, Canada's premiers have wrapped up a three-day summit in Ontario Cottage Country, presenting a united front against U.S. President Donald Trump. CTV's Rachel Aiello now on why federal trade deal is looking unlikely by the August 1st deadline.
Premiers wrapped 3 days of talks about building up the economy and tearing down internal trade barriers united against a common enemy.
We have a crisis in Canada about Donald Trump attacking us. We're trying to protect our economy.
With a former ambassador who briefed premiers yesterday revealing today that reaching a deal by August 1st is highly unlikely.
It's complex and it may take longer, and I think it probably will.
One premier conceded that they'd now consider an agreement on sectoral irritants, such as autos and lumber, in the next 9 days, a win.
I mean, I'm watching Truth Social along with everyone else because things could change in 5 minutes.
Premiers also committed to taking at least one trade mission to another province or territory in the coming year.
We have our points of disagreement, but there are far more points of agreement in terms of how we're going to build our economies in our respective provinces.
And while the trade war with the U.S. dominated this week's discussions, today premiers also carved out time to tackle a pair of other pressing domestic issues. Public safety, including pushing the Prime Minister on bail reform.
We need to, greatly stiffen the sentence, not only for those repeat offenders, but for those that are bringing these poisonous drugs into our communities across Canada.
And strengthening Canada's strained healthcare system.
If we want to say that we're standing up to Donald Trump and we're never going to be the 51st state, let's make sure that our universal healthcare system is strong.
While the premiers and the Prime Minister have come away from these talks largely on the same page, when it comes to fixing the immigration system, premiers want the federal government to make it more responsive to market and economic needs. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Huntsville, Ontario.
The Canadian Automobile Dealers Association says they see a glimmer of hope in light of President Donald Trump's new deal with Japan. Here's CTV's Abigail Beeman on what their reduced tariffs might mean for Canada.
In between meetings on Capitol Hill, CTV News caught up with the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association. Hugh Williams has logged more than 30 with lawmakers and the U.S. administration. He says senior senators are signaling a trade deal is within reach.
They're optimistic that we're going to have some framework of a deal that will resolve the trading problems between our nations, ideally by Labor Day.
Williams says it's unreasonable for Canada to reach an agreement that's worse than the new U.S.-Japan deal.
I just signed the largest trade deal in history, I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan.
It cuts auto tariffs to 15%.
That deal has a lot of attention in the Senate and congressional leaders that we've been talking to. And I think that the prevailing view is that Canada should have a better deal going forward.
This week, hit by tariffs, General Motors reported a 35% decline in second quarter profits, and Stellantis a $2.7 billion net loss for the first half of the year.
We're down about 30% in exports already this year from Canada in vehicles. And, we have idle plants that don't have any product.
Flavio Volpe says he's taken aback by the 15% the Japanese agreed to, and it wouldn't work for Canada.
It's a bad deal. Better to slog it out than to lock in bad terms.
Trade experts say Japan's 15% tariff provides insights into the U.S. administration's thinking and clues about what may be achievable. Meanwhile, there's news the European Union is inching closer to a similar 15% tariff deal with the U.S. as well. Anne-Marie?
Abigail, thank you. Well, farmers in the prairies are struggling with stunted crops after a season of bone-dry conditions.
It's not good, and we need a lot of rain.
Several communities in Manitoba and Saskatchewan have declared states of emergency due to an agricultural disaster. There are ongoing concerns that livestock, as well as consumers, will be negatively impacted.
The 17 and a half months with Gabriel was incredible.
A prison sentence for a Calgary couple who pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the death of their toddler. After being returned to his biological parents, 20-month-old Gabriel Sinclair Pasqua died 4 weeks later. The small boy had burns to his body, head injuries, and was emaciated. Sonia Pasqua and Michael Sinclair will serve 6 years in prison.
I feel bad for the lawyer, and this is crazy. The fire this morning, yeah, it's scary.
Police in Brampton, Ontario are hunting for a suspect after a lawyer was shot and then his firm allegedly set on fire. The flames broke out early this morning, just hours after the lawyer himself was shot in his office. A source confirming to CTV News the victim was a criminal defense lawyer, Manbur Sodhi, whose name is on the wall outside the building. No word yet on a motive. A judge will issue her decision tomorrow in London, Ontario, in the sexual assault trial of 5 Canadian former World Junior hockey players. The men have pleaded not guilty and will learn their fate after a case that took several twists and turns. CTV's Adrian Gabriel on what you need to know before tomorrow's verdict.
From teammates to champions to defendants accused of sexual assault.
This has been one of the most high-profile cases that we've seen in quite some time.
June 18th, 2018, following a Hockey Canada gala, a group of World Junior teammates meet a 20-year-old here inside this London, Ontario bar. Following a night of drinking and dancing, the young woman arrived here at this downtown hotel with Michael McLeod, where they had consensual sex. What happens next has been closely scrutinized. The verdicts now hinge on the legal meaning of one word.
This trial comes down to consent, whether the complainant consented to the sexual activity that did take place.
The young woman, who we can only identify as EM, claims that after having sex with McLeod, multiple players entered and, quote, manipulated and intimidated her into remaining in this hotel room where she says she was sexually assaulted.
And I just said, like, are you okay with this? And she said, yes.
The court has been shown a text message from McLeod inviting teammates to room 209 for a, quote, three-way, something he didn't share with investigators when he spoke to London police in 2018.
She got on the bed and said, who wants to have sex with me?
It's not just the interviews and testimony in this trial that have been shocking.
April 23rd, just 2 days into the trial, a member of the jury claims that over the lunch break here inside this market, they had an inappropriate conversation with one of the defense lawyers for Alex Fermenton. A mistrial is declared. The jury is scrapped. May 26th, a second jury is dismissed here at the courthouse after Alex Fermenton's defense team are accused by jurors of laughing and making them feel uncomfortable, something the lawyers in question deny. Still, the jury is sent home. The proceedings continue as a judge-alone trial.
It's exceptionally rare for that to happen twice in one trial. It's not something that I've seen before.
Former World Junior team captain Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, Carter Hart, Michael McLeod, and Alex Fermenton have each been charged with sexual assault. McLeod is also facing one charge of being party to the offense.
With the verdicts now being delivered by a single judge instead of a jury, the public will receive a reason for the decision, which is also expected to be shared tomorrow. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, London, Ontario.
Coming up.
She's saving my daughter's life.
Why a Montreal woman is being hailed a hero. Plus, a court ruling being called a major turning point in the fight against climate change. The World Health Agency says it is seeing a surge in malnutrition-related deaths in Gaza, with aid deliveries far below what's needed. More than 100 aid organizations and human rights groups are now banding together to demand more aid. Israel maintains food shortages in Gaza are being engineered by Hamas. Well, this comes as the WHO released video said to show an Israeli attack Monday on its facilities in central Gaza. The Israeli military says its troops came under fire in the area and responded.
To respect and ensure the effective enjoyment of human rights by taking necessary measures to protect the climate system.
A landmark ruling today from the UN's top court, which says countries failing to protect the earth could be in violation of international law, and nations harmed could be entitled to reparations. The non-binding decision calling a healthy environment a human right is being hailed as a turning point for international climate law. Still ahead, how a police officer's vital act saved a child's life. This dramatic video shows a Dallas police officer saving a child who was choking.
He's breathing. He's breathing. He's breathing.
The officer's body camera captured the moment when he ran to the aid of a 2-year-old choking on a hot dog. You can see the officer grab the child, pound his back, until he was able to eventually dislodge the piece of food from his throat. He's being commended for his quick actions.
She's my hero. She's saving my daughter life. Like, I need to say thank you every moment.
And a Montreal woman hailed as a hero for saving an 8-year-old girl who couldn't swim. She was in the shallow end of a backyard pool trying to get away from a bee that kept following her, and she wound up in the deep end and went under. By the time she was pulled out, she was unresponsive. And that's when Sandra Zguri leapt into action to perform CPR.
There was a couple next to me that were trying to help as well, but they didn't know CPR. So they were just kind of shaking her. She coughed up water, and that's when I knew she was alive.
The young girl was rushed to the hospital, where she made a full recovery. Still ahead. How AI-created fakes are being used to stop forgeries of an Indigenous artist's works. AI and robots are now helping restore the legacy of renowned Indigenous artist Norval Morrisseau. It follows an investigation into the biggest case of art fraud in Canada. Here's CTV's Geneviève Bushman.
The painter in this Montreal studio is a robot reproducing a masterpiece by renowned Anishinaabe artist Norval Morrisseau. These aren't machine-created fakes, though, to be passed off as real, but replicas used to root out fraud.
This is called Bear Father, Bear Son.
Chloe Ryan heads Acrylic Robotics. She's a painter now armed with a degree in mechanical engineering.
I became very frustrated with how long it would take me to make a piece, and then the fact that I could only sell that one time to one person. I was making $2 an hour.
The fear, of course, is that this will empower robots to replace human creativity. But Ryan says this model helps artists use AI as a tool to make their art more accessible. But what also caught the attention of the late Morrisseau's estate was the technology's potential to help in his fight against forgeries. Morrisseau is known as the grandfather of contemporary Indigenous art in Canada.
With all the systemic racism against him, his art always spoke of love and unity, of interconnectivity and interdependency.
His paintings sell in the millions, but thousands of frauds have flooded the market, making it difficult to authenticate and sell his paintings.
Every time that we would release a painting to the market, it would get faked, a fake print would be made, and a fake print of the fake painting would be made.
The estate turned to robotics and AI to produce concrete data to prove which painting is a fraud.
The better our works get, the better their model has to get to detect them.
Acrylic Robotics creates increasingly precise copies used to train a program called Norval AI. It was developed 3 years ago to detect fakes. Amazon Web Services software helps log millions of details.
So the AI is able to provide this additional lens and this magnifying glass of information that might not be possible to just a naked human eye.
The hope here is that this is a high-tech step in the age-old fight against art fraud. Geneviève Bushman, CTV News, Montreal.
Very cool. That's a snapshot of this Wednesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.